I don't know if I explained that very well earlier about callousing and healing in, but there's another technique that is used sometimes for this type of work. If the damage, it's usually mouse damage and not beavers. As a matter of fact, that's probably what that is down there. Probably mouse damage. But sometimes it's so low that you can't get into the bark below it. So there's another technique called in-arching, and that's where you take a young tree and just plant it at the base of the damaged tree, and then cut the top the same way I've done this and in-arch it in to the trunk. But as far as the callousing and healing, I'll go into that a little bit. When you have a cut on a tree and it heals itself up, as this one has done here, that's called callousing tissue, and or undifferentiated cells, which produces callousing tissue, and that comes from the cambium layer. And that cambium layer is, when we cut the grafts, there's a little fine line between the bark and the hardwood. That's the cambium, and that's where all the growing takes place. And if you remember, when you were a little kid, I told you if you cut a tree down and count the rings, you can tell how old it is. And that's what you're counting, is the growing that took place in that cambium layer that year. So that's what's going to happen on these grafts on the top, is it'll get this callousing ring around here just like that. But on the graft, because the cambium is producing cells on both pieces, what happens is those cells differentiate into vascular cells, vascular meaning veins, which will feed then nutrients from the root system up into the graft, and once that's healed into the tree, and then force the bud, and the bud grows into a tree, and there you have it. So anyway, a little bit more about grafting. I said I wasn't going to go into grafting because that's not what my YouTube channel is about, but there are some people that were kind of interested in it, so I've explained a little bit about it. But I always say that it is my God-given talent, and the reason I say that is because when I was a little boy, 6, 7 years old, growing up down the Ozark Mountains in southern Missouri, all little boys had a pocket knife. And probably a cheap Barlow, you know, probably cost 15, 20 cents. But that was kind of a big deal for a little boy to get his first pocket knife. And I had one. It was dull as a hoe, but I had one. And my dad wouldn't sharpen it. But we had some old cherry trees down by our barn, and I would take that little pocket knife and I'd cut out a square out of the bark on those cherry trees. And I'd pull that off. And I'd take that to another tree and cut out a square that fit that, and put that one on there, or sometimes trade them. And sometimes I'd hide a penny behind that square and let it heal in, and come back later and dig it out and show my friends that there was a shiny piece of glass or a penny or something back in there. And I didn't know that I was grafting, but I was. That's exactly what I was doing, because there's a technique that's called patch budding. And that's exactly what they do. They cut out a square that has a bud in the center of it, and take that to another tree of another variety and graft that in, and then it grows the bud and you have the new variety. So I've been grafting, I guess, since I was 6 or 7 years old. Anyway, that's enough about that. See you later. Bye.